The queer pitch. To deliver his talk on this topic, I invite Sri Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Research Fellow with the Nuclear Security Program at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. Abhijit's writing has been published in many mainstream media vehicles, and I'm sure a lot of us know him here. Welcome, Abhijit.
Right. So thank you for having me here. I have the distinct disadvantage to now try to impress you after that tour de force by Lakshmi. Thank you so much. Such an inspiring speech. And so what I'm going to do is, I'm not actually going to inspire, I'm just going to bitch and rant a bit. Because mostly I do defense stuff and nuclear stuff. And the first thing you think about it is, when you look at all these headlines about growing intolerance, cow violence, God knows what else, I look back and all I've had at this gathering of the right wing, the Hindu right, is affection, respect, and love. And I think, is this the same country we're talking about? Am I living in a bubble? Why is it that I have never, not on a single day of my life in this country, have I been discriminated against? Have I been ridiculed? Have I ever been ostracized from anything? And well, the answer really comes back to what is our faith. Exactly about 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers from here, if I wear what I wear, I would probably be thrown off a building or I would be beheaded. And what do I get out here? Acceptance. I work in foreign policy and defense, which is what a bastion of machismo and manhood. And guess what? Nobody gives a damn what your sexuality is in this country. And yet, what is the narrative out here? That we're somehow intolerant, that we're perpetuating what somebody called a gay and lesbian genocide, or what have you. So let me tell you what happened when I came out, and this is what actually made me a Hindu. I was a very proud atheist. I'm still an atheist, but I identify as a Hindu. And as many of you who follow Charvaka know, there is absolutely no dichotomy out there. So after doing the rounds of different psychiatrists, somebody turned around and asked the people that were taking me to the psychiatrists, well, your son seems just fine. Maybe you would like a therapy session to deal with your son's sexuality? Anyway, that didn't happen. So the next round, after science doesn't validate you, you go on to the religious angle. And the religious angle was very, very clear, and it was uniform. Love is between two souls. The body is irrelevant to the equation. What's your problem in life? Get over it. And that was the day I decided that this is something worth living up to, it's something worth looking up to, and it's something worth exploring. And so I stand before you today really to explore this dichotomy. Why is it that we have this label of intolerance attached to us? What is this victimhood narrative that we have doing the rounds? And why is it that somebody like me has never faced this victimhood? And it really comes down to meta-narratives. We really haven't mobilized, and that is why this particular conference is a step in the right direction. We're being inclusive, we're being everything to all people, and that's exactly what we need. Now let's go on to other things. I know Lakshmi ji spoke about Section 377. What is the problem? There are problems being created, imaginary problems that simply don't exist. I actually feel protected by Section 377, and I'll tell you why later. But what happens out here is, your Section 377 is saying what? Carnal intercourse that is not natural. What is unnatural about homosexuality? Bharat Gupta ji just told us there is nothing unnatural about it. It is not validated by religion. You go by the pramana. Pramana is what? Pramana is what I feel. It is localized, it is specific to individuals, and it is what you feel at any given point of time. Now, we may not accept what Ramdev thinks about me, but Ramdev has every right to think what he does about me. And equally, I don't seek validation from him. Guess what, Baba Ramdev? You may think whatever you want, that is your right, but I don't give a damn. I am not going to be victimized or create a pseudo-victim narrative just because he thinks certain things about me, because his opinions are frankly irrelevant to me. And that brings me to the core of this problem. Ultimately, we have to be responsible for ourselves. Where Lakshmi ji is today, she is there because of herself. Where I am today, I am because of myself. The state is not responsible for all of us. And that is the right-wing thing. Help yourself and people will help you out. Let's look at Section 377. What happened? You have this entire campaign to get rid of it. Okay, fair point. Now, was any scientific evidence presented? No. You keep going on this human rights angle. Now, the problem with human rights is not concurrent, it's consecutive. I made this point yesterday. You have patriarchy. Patriarchy produces strong societies. Strong societies produce law and order. Law and order then produces the rule of law. Rule of law then produces emancipation and equality. And everything you see today, I mean, spit on patriarchy as much as you want. We are here today because of that patriarchal society, right? Is it time to move on? Yes. But don't keep spitting on it and rejecting it for what it was. Second, when you look at the position of the gay community today, what are we discussing? We're confusing a lot of issues. Equal rights, decriminalization, which are two completely different ballgames. These rights come concurrently, consecutively, one after the other. First you decriminalize, then you get equal rights, then you get protections and more rights. And that is not what's happening. What has happened is the left, of course, the left loves every victim it meets. It hates people who refuse to get victimized. It tells you it doesn't like identity politics, yet I am meant to conform to an identity. And what is that identity? It is based on who I sleep with and choose to love. If there isn't a more superficial definition of identity, I really don't know what is. That is the worst kind of identity politics you can get. So here's the thing. What does decriminalization of Section 377 require? All it requires is something to say, a Supreme Court judgment, that the scientific evidence shows 377 really can't apply to consensual sex. It doesn't even have to be gay or lesbian. It's just consensual sex. End of story. That is your decriminalization. Even now, it's very difficult to prove it, and this is where Section 377 comes in as a protection, which is if I as a man get raped, and male rape is something people aren't very comfortable talking about, but it does happen. It happens a lot. A man has absolutely no protection against rape except the natural laws of assault. And this is where every case of gay rape, you have to quote Section 377, sodomizing, in that sense, to get some kind of punishment to happen, some kind of retribution to happen. And this is then problematic, because then when you remove Section 377, what is the protection that I then get? And this is the conundrum I am stuck in today, that on one hand, it is semi-criminalized, and on the other, if that protection goes away, I simply do not have equal protections that a woman has against rape. Very problematic. And so it's really important we sit down and think about these things, because what is happening is when you start confusing issues, you end up going in different directions. We start getting into different narratives, many of which are confusing, and many of which become a cottage industry in their own right. Because all that's happening right now is there's a huge human rights cottage industry, which is more about raising funds. And what has been the Supreme Court result so far? Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. No final conclusion. Why? So all I'm going to do now is, I much prefer question and answer, and I'm not going to take up all my time. I'm just going to take up another minute, 2 minutes at most. And with your permission, I'm going to be slightly rude. To the gay community, all I'm going to say is, please grow a pair, right? Nobody likes a victim. Grow a pair, be confident of yourself, and stop imagining victimhood where it really doesn't exist. Thank you.